Hi, welcome to this Spirit Gathering teleconference. Today is October 17th, 2012, and my name is Amy Skezas. Our topic is spiritual community, and we're so glad that you've joined us. We are recording this call so that people who could not be here tonight can listen in. Please press *6 to mute your line to help keep the line quiet. And you can press *6 to unmute if you wish to speak. Now let's take a moment to get settled, to center ourselves, to let go of the events of this day, to begin to enter the deeper sacred space within ourselves. Now, let us imagine that we are joining together, sacred heart to sacred heart, with every other person on this call right now. Now let us imagine that we're joining together, sacred heart to sacred heart, with everyone who will listen to this recording. Now let us set our intentions. May we deepen our connection with the divine. May this sharing serve each of us on our spiritual journey. May it serve our communities and the planet. So it is. For tonight's call on spiritual community, we're going to use a peer spirit circle structure for our call structure. And we'll begin in a few moments with Jill, who's volunteered to read a short reading on the subject of spiritual community. Then we'll establish the center, and we'll go around the circle so that everyone gets a chance to speak using a talking piece, like a talking stick. But because we're on the phone, it's a virtual talking stick. And we'll do it by, when we start to speak, when we finish speaking, we'll say, I'm putting the talking stick in the middle of the circle. I'm done. And then the next person who starts to speak says their name, says, I'm picking up the talking stick. So we use words, sound, since we can't see each other, and we can't physically pass each other the stick. And the basic rule is you talk when you have the stick, and if you don't have the stick, you don't talk. You wait your turn to take it. And the idea of a circle is that it's a very side-by-side, peer-based form instead of a top-down, one-leader form, that everybody in the circle is a leader, and we all share responsibility for the quality of the experience of the circle. And we rely on the wholeness of the group rather than on our personal agenda. We speak with intention, noting what has relevance to the conversation in the moment. We listen with attention, respectful of the learning process for all members, and to tend the circle's well-being, we remain aware of the impact of our contributions. Sally has volunteered to be our guardian tonight, and the guardian is according to Peer Spirit, and these guidelines are available for free at www.peerspirit.com, P-E-E-R-S-P-I-R-I-T, peerspirit.com. The guardian is the single most important tool for aiding self-governance and bringing the circle back to intention. Basically, Sally as the guardian is watching and safeguarding our group energy and observing our process. She's going to employ a bell signals everybody to stop action, take a breath, and rest in a space of silence. And then she'll make the signal again and speak to why she called the pause. And that's something that Sally can do at whatever point she feels it's right, and that any of us can do. We can ask Sally, could you ring the bell? And you can do that. That's one time that you can speak without the talking stick. And the idea is that by slowing things down, by taking pause, by taking space, we can feel the impact, we can reflect, we can discern what's arising in the moment through our hearts and in the shared space of the circle. So we're all able to call for that pause. So those are the circle structures that we'll do. Again, Jill will read a starting point, little reading to get us thinking about spiritual community. And I'll take the stick and establish the center and put out the questions. And then we'll go around the circle and then we'll do an ending, a checking out. So Sally, if you could ring when people put the talking stick back in the center, if we could have 2 bells, you don't have to say why you're doing it with those bells, just so that we have a space between people talking so that we can really absorb what the previous person said before the next person starts. Okay, any questions about this very simple circle structure? Great. The agreements that seem relevant tonight are that we listen with compassion and curiosity. We ask for what we need and we offer what we can, and we agree to pause at the signal of the bell and to call for that signal when we feel the need to pause. So just think about those agreements. Let them rest with you. Does anybody have any questions or difficulties with those agreements? Okay, great. So I'm putting the talking stick down, the center of the circle. Sally, you can do your 2 bells. And then Jill, when you're ready, pick up the stick.
Okay, thank you. I pick up the stick.
Wait till the 2 bells.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. To get us in that rhythm of pausing between speakers.
Was that 2?
Yeah, I think so. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, last night you said a starting point, a welcome, and a grounding. And I guess to incorporate a little bit of spiritual community, I have something prepared in divine order, if it fits, hopefully. Okay, each of you begin to call yourself back, collecting yourself, going into a place of preparation, breathing, taking the time to be able to move out of the daily chaos, out of the distraction of the ego, and with full intention to shift consciousness in a way that will allow us to make the changes that are desired, the intention that is desired towards spiritual community, paving a new way, shifting our consciousness in a way that will allow us. Going deeper into this process, a little more prepared, a little more deeper. Breathe fully. Connect with the energy of self. Take a few deep breaths. Allow yourself to connect with your own heartbeat. Any worries or unraveling about what is happening in your life, in the world, just allow yourself to sink deeper out of ego into compassion and curiosity, into the divine order of our inner self and what we want to be creating for a spiritual community that is harmonious, that is peaceful. We can shape the forms in our life and also into the world, taking these intentions as we are gathered for this circle of sharing this evening. Remember that when we are in circle with others, the energy stays contained within this group, giving back to all. And that because each of us has made this time the preparation to be here and participate in this, the effectiveness of our intention and time spent will be greatly enhanced. I invite each of you to imagine right now that we are joining hands with another on each side of us. And like a drop of water rippling out on the surface of a pond, the waves of energy produced in our circle shall radiate outward in a cellular motion. And it is this energy that can change the world. Breathe deeply. Breathe fully. Connect with the energy of self. Take 2 more deep breaths. Welcome. Thank you.
I'm picking up the stick. It's Amy. Thank you, Jill. That was lovely. So there are 6 of us here, and we have about a half an hour, so that's about 5 minutes each. So I'll encourage you to think about these 3 questions as the topic to discuss in those 5 minutes. Maybe one of them really lights up for you, maybe more than one. Maybe these questions lead to some other questions for you or some other topic. But whatever you'd like to talk about, take about 5 minutes when it's your turn. And you can pick up the talking stick when you feel ready and when there's the space. So these questions are, how do you experience spiritual community? What do you long for in spiritual community? How do you contribute to spiritual community? Any of those that resonate for you, or if they trigger a thought of a different topic, please feel free to share about that. I'm putting the stick back in the circle. Oh.
Hello, this is Sally. I'm going to pick up the stick. And in relating to experiencing spiritual community within the Tzaddi community, I feel that it's limited to the monthly gatherings that we have. I have to say I don't have a great sense of the other people who are involved with the Church of Tzaddi. There's just a few people that I knew from before in Amy Skezas' teachings and, of course, Amy herself. And I feel that those relationships, that kind of community I feel with them has been brought into this experience, but I don't feel that there is a community essence that seems to be generated out of the church community for me. I would like to see more of a cohesiveness and a flow of perhaps information so that I knew what other people were excited about and engaged with and doing within their spiritual work. I really feel like there are these independent satellites that are relatively self-sufficient, and I don't feel connected to those at this point. And I guess for me, when I look to have my desires for a spiritual community, I've had to seek out other communities that are more local to me. And, you know, I think the other side of that is that when I was involved in the triangle work through Gowden University's network, which is kind of a subsidiary of Tzaddi, I felt much more engaged and involved with that community. But again, I don't feel like it was the central church community. I felt that it was a separate group, and that for me has kind of taken a pause, and I do miss that. And I guess for me, there is a traditional base of having been raised in a church community where there were ministers, where there were different, you know, directors, Sunday school teachers, etc. That I see a kind of organizational network that isn't in place here, I think, because of just the size of the grouping and just, you know, the fact that Amy's not being paid a salary the way, you know, the ministers at our family church used to be paid and things like that. So it isn't a full-time job in the same respect. And yet somehow I feel like the Church of Tzaddi needs some kind of leadership directive that is kind of at the helm, so that I don't know whether that would encourage more people to be involved or whether there just isn't a large enough community. But somehow, for me, there seems to be a sense of what's coming up is like stagnant energy, that people are not fully engaged or feel that the church is central. And I think for me, that is kind of true, that it isn't something that I check in with on a daily basis. And perhaps that has an effect on things. So I'm going to put back the stick now for somebody else to take as they choose.
Hi, this is Amy. I'll pick up the stick. I hope I'm unmuted. I'm not muted. Can somebody unmute and tell me if you can hear me, please?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, good. So I was really struck listening to Sally about the idea of a church and the idea of a spiritual community. And I've spent a lot of energy since I became presiding bishop to make sure that we were meeting the legal requirements of being a church. But I've always felt in my connection to Tzaddi that the churchiness of it was really not important to me at all. And it's a great irony that I'm the one at the helm right now, a position I never aspired to particularly. And it might be that my own lack of churchiness is affecting the churchiness of Tzaddi. You know, when Amy and Dorothy were the heads of it, it was really churchy. It was their thing to have a church. They were really aligned with the churchiness of it. But they were really into it being a metaphysical church. When I asked Amy Keys what I was going to open a light center in 2000, I spent some time on the phone with her, and I said, you know, how do you see this church? Do you see this as a Christian church? She said, oh, no, not the way people understand that word. I see it as a metaphysical church. I said, great. You know, I said, I can live with that. I can be with that. That's good for me, metaphysical church. And that's how I see it. I see that its churchiness, it's like it fills a practical function. legally, and it's as good a church as any for me. But the thing that I'm really interested in about Tzaddi is less its churchiness than its spiritual community-ness, if that makes any sense. And for me personally, the thing I really long for in the spiritual community is to feel connected with other human beings who have, I think, similar enough experiences to my own that I can feel like I relate with them. This is just me as a person, not me as the bishop. And on a good day, I can relate with a broader band of frequencies of people, and on a bad day, I'm more constricted, and I need somebody who's more like myself, what I imagine myself to be, to feel related.
Sure.
And that sense of relationship, of meaningful exchange, that's the thing that spiritual community feels like to me it's about, and that's what I long for, is meaningful exchange. And if I'm sitting in pews in a wooden building or a brick building, and I get that, then I'm satisfied. And if I'm sitting under the stars around a campfire, and I get it, then I'm satisfied. And if I get it on the bus with a stranger, then I'm really satisfied. Then I really feel happy. And so it's not contained for me within the church structure, even though I'm a very structure-oriented person. It's contained within the human relationship structure, within the organization. And within that, it's our sharing and our honesty with each other and our respect for each other that really makes it for me. And our telepathic connection and our energy field connection that really makes it for me. I agree. I think most people are distracted away from Tzaddi. I'm very sensitive to telepathy and energy field interactions, and most of the time, most of our people are not focused on Tzaddi, would be my read of the energy. But there is a way I think everybody expects it and wants it to be there for them, nonetheless. And I was the same way before I was sitting in this seat. I just expected it to be there. I took it for granted. And I feel like I can accept it just as it is. Okay. I wish it was more engaged. I wish we had more meaningful sharing. But it's tricky with everybody spread out so far away. And I'm really open to dialoguing with anybody who wants to about how to help that arise in a meaningful way from the bottom up, and not as something that I tell people they have to do from the top down. That's me. Thank you. I'm putting the stick back down now.
This is Diane. I'll pick up the stick and say that what I long for in spiritual community is also meaningful connection and related connection among the members, a real relatedness. And I think about the materials that Amy wrote or rewrote in the Healer Counselor program
And I just found those to be so meaningful and so rich in connecting me to the metaphysical, to God, to the divine. And while it's not to necessarily, well, I'll just say that there's something in those documents that feels like a place-to-place focus that would help to connect and relate and invite meaningful dialogue and again this connection piece. And that has just surfaced in listening to both Sally and Amy for me. Because it's also something that I long for in community is that's a one to me reading something and, you know, really relating to it and getting a lot of value from it. But to have that perhaps as something that would at least be a start or a basis for some ongoing dialogue, and as a way to meaningfully connect with one another and get to know one another in this forum is a possibility that has arisen for me. Thank you. I am putting the stick back now.
Hi there. It's Jill from Michigan. I want to thank you all, Diane, Sally, and Amy, for your openness, your candidness. I have several thoughts. I totally agree that there needs to be a little work on, a little boost in a sense of community, getting to know what others are doing. Everyone's longing for the same thing. I'm going to go just through these three little questions here. How do I experience spiritual community? In the best moments, it's when there is a church I like to go to, but since I've been working this weekend midnight job for the last 3 years, I don't get there too often. And as churchy as it might get, it's still very open. It's very metaphysical. It's where Marianne Williamson used to work for several years. But it's connecting with people, and I've been doing some different Skype conferences, some different teleconferences, and not on a regular basis because some of them cost money, and since I've been displaced, it doesn't happen too often, but I connect that way. I've been looking at media options. I'm sure many of you have seen so many groups, so many organizations, so many not only famous people, but very average people. We don't have to all be renowned authors or presenters, and people have websites, and people are doing things with the media. So what I long for is to venture into that with Tzaddi, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So how do I experience, just like Amy said, with others to relate through meaningful exchanges? It can happen in random situations. I'd like it more. I'd like it in some more regular ways. What I long for in Tzaddi is that there's like so many rogue members, there aren't many people that really participate in our monthly exchanges. Do we know how many call in? No. Sometimes I would like to find out. I mean, with these monthly spirit gatherings, I send out emails to dozens and dozens and dozens of people that I know are searching for a connection to the sacred, spiritual longing, non-religious, for hope, for inspiration, for not being told that you're going to be sent to hell and damnation if you don't follow the rules of whatever religious dogma they have. I wish that we could bring in maybe an activity to tie in. For example, right here, Earth Walk here with Lorraine, the Light Center, once a month service. What if, again, these are just, whatever light centers are across the country, tie in an event, whether it's a church service or an evening, just a little extra event talk topic activity, whether it included whatever that area was into, to invite people from the community. Something kind of fun, something kind of light, but that's going to incorporate spirit and inspiration and something we can do. There's so many spiritual retreats that are going on, and again, just to tie in something with a light center that could be posted on the Tzaddi website. Just a couple different fun ideas. For a fun ship, a warship, fun ship really sounds corny, but something that just doesn't have to always be so serious, but light and spirit and fun. There's so many opportunities with Skype. And another thing, to have recordings available. So many people put so much effort and time into these monthly presentations, and if there's only 2 or 3 people listening, and then we don't have any record, if there's anyone calling in during the month. I mean, I know that my group that I send out to groups, and I don't know these all personally, they're kind of random, they've been to different workshops or retreats I've done, but they would call me if they said, yeah, this is good. So maybe we need to revisit how that is, or maybe have recordings available so that if we do a workshop or we're having a ceremony, we have people, hey, these things are available, and they can call in anytime. Just some little brainstorming there. How I contribute to spiritual community is I've been doing ceremony for over 20 years, but in the last 3 years I do it every 6 weeks. And anytime I have some new people that may want to come or be invited, they're welcome. I do it every 6 weeks. It's always informative on ceremonies that are going on around the Northern Hemisphere with the seasonal changes. So there's always information, there's education, and there's engagement because we do pray, we do meditate. I always have symbolic activity or candle interaction. Sometimes there is things thrown into the fire outside, or we may do some drumming, or we may do some dancing. Very brief, because the whole ceremony only lasts 1 hour. But I do ceremony. That's how I contribute. In the summer here in Michigan, at this Lake St. Clair, I offer spirit sharing at the shore once a month. I've had a few people a couple times. It's just something new I started this year. And I'm going to continue to tie it in with some community events next year because I belong to an organization that does a lot of events during the summer from May through October. I do blogs. I just started blogs, electronic blogs in the local paper, the electronic paper. And I would what I long for in spiritual community is to have a connection to, okay, for example, a light center here that I could say, okay, we're doing this here once a year or twice a year, or that at the church website, these special occasions are on this regular basis. You can go hear this talk or watch a teleconference that is available. Of course, that may cost money in the future or to even get it, but a thread that is going to connect and weave what we're all doing separately to lead it into. Again, I look at things like kind of a really big picture and then chunk it down because I've done huge community projects. But leadership, you mentioned Sally. What I would really like to see, Amy, you got ordained in Michigan 5 years ago, well, almost 5 years ago, next June. There's a lot of Tzaddi people in Michigan. I would like to see in October, because mid-latter October is kind of a pretty calm time in a lot of people's calendars because everyone's so busy, for one day. And let's do some kind of day event for a variety of things. But I know you don't want to have requirements, but maybe, I don't know, that could be a different conversation or some different emails. I would love to see more connection and finding out about what people are doing and how they contribute and how they experience and what they long for. I think we're all on the same page. We want to connect more and with the Church of Tzaddi because this is a good thing. I think media is huge. I know, Amy, you are so busy. There are more and more things that are happening to make things easier. I might eventually, as soon as I have a job, but I'm really starting to learn my way around media. I think to learn what others are doing. Maybe there's a media thing where we could all belong to, like a discussion group. Like those are all over everywhere. Let's have a discussion group, and then we can just put in our every day or every other day or once every 3 weeks a couple sentences of something to try to get a sense. Maybe that's an idea. So there we go. I think I've used up more than my 5 minutes or so, and I thank you all who are on this call tonight for being here and making the time again. Thank you. And I give up the talking stick now.
Hi, this is Nancy, and I'm picking up the talking stick. And I'd like to know if I'm unmuted.
Yes, you are unmuted.
Great, thank you. It's kind of interesting and funny that tonight is the second conference call or gathering where I was unable to unmute when it was time to share. So I have hung up and called the original number to participate. And it's funny because I was going to share, among other things, that one of my stumbling blocks with participation with Tzaddi is the technology. So it's just kind of humorous that this is actually played out again tonight I want to say that I feel that I resonate to the essence of Tzaddi when I participate. And I feel aligned to the ideas and the recreation of what, Amy, you have put forth as the tenets of Tzaddi. I notice that I belong to several communities currently, and they are small ones. I belong to a Franciscan community, which is part of a large church, but I attend daily Mass with from 7 to 12 people, mostly women. And I find it very nourishing to be in a small group where there is spiritual connection and each person is aligned with the divine. In the past, I felt quite connected with Roselight, with Amy, and as Sally, I think, said earlier, the triangle that I had with Susan Scully and Bonnie Witherspoon was wonderful. I miss that in this format with the church. And
thank you.
And I belong to other tiny communities that meet once a month.
Someone's talking right now.
Hello? Okay. Like a dream group that meets once a month and a poets group that meets every other week, and there are only 3 of us in one group and 4 in the other. I think that the once a month situation with Tzaddi would work for me if sometimes it didn't conflict with other things that are pretty pressing. But as I say, when I do participate, I very much resonate to the essence. As other people have said, I long for connection with people I can relate to. In prayer years ago, I was told when I asked about my deep connection to Christianity, to Native American ceremony, to Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, I was told to be an ocean into which all rivers can flow. And in some ways, I do feel that with Tzaddi. I don't have any answers or suggestions for how to make the sense of community stronger at this time, but I'm going to reflect on it. And if I can remember or find my password to get back into the website, which I've struggled with several times, I could put my thoughts and reflections there and get back into the groove of reading it on a regular basis and seeing what others have to say. And I think that is enough for me to say now. I'm actually holding a talking stick I carved that has red tail hawk feathers and owl feathers and I'm putting it down right now. Thank you.
Before you go to bed, can I watch myself in there later? Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. What time are you getting up? No, it's on pause right now. Oh. The date's postponed because of rain. Oh, really?
Jill, could you hit *6 and mute your line, please?
Wait. Yes, I'm here.
Could you mute your line? We're hearing your conversation.
Oh, sorry.
Hello, this is Sally. I'd like to pick up the talking stick, if I might, again.
Can you hear me, Sally?
Yeah.
I just would like to give Bonnie a chance to speak since she hasn't spoken yet. Could you wait until after she goes?
Sure.
If she's still here and wants to speak, otherwise it's yours. Okay, you got it, Sally, and then when you're finished, we'll move into closing.
Just briefly, I had certain thoughts as I listened to everyone, and one of them being that it would be lovely to create more energy of people connecting and focusing on Tzaddi. And I remember when I was in a course called the Masters Program that Amy and Athvaskar led, that we formed triangles at the beginning of the program. And I got together with 2 other women, and every morning for 3 years, when we woke up during our meditation period, we would connect with one another and the group as a group. And I started waking up at exactly the time that one of these women did her morning meditation, which put me on a much earlier schedule than I'd ever been in my life. But I have to say there was a spiritual net that I felt intertwined with during that whole 3-year period. And I was very sad when we released it at the end of the course. I felt that same kind of connection through the Gaudian network. And I'm curious whether people would be interested in trying to set up some kind of triangle structure of that nature where 3 people could, on a daily basis, consciously connect with one another and hold the Tzaddi group in their conscious prayers, and how that might create some kind of synergy for other things. And the other thing that I thought about is, for me to seek out community, I've become active with the Christian Science Church, which is very close to me. And one of the things that people do there is a reading of a weekly meditation, which goes from biblical readings and then the book by Mary Baker Eddy, which exemplifies and clarifies those. And to me, what I've noticed is that in either reading these sections, or they also have a phone line you can call and hear this program, that there is this consciousness that is literally circling the globe, because that's how extensive their church is at this point. And to me, the brilliance of what Mary Baker Eddy did was by creating a universal consciousness on an ongoing basis that constantly evolved different, just beautiful facets of love and principle and other aspects that she felt should be reflected. And so, again, there may be some way that we as a community have either a prayer time or something similar that, again, creates this thread of action that creates an alignment of consciousness and spirituality. So I'm going to put down the stick and thank you for the time.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. So we've all shared a lot of things. Some calls to action, some seed ideas, some just heartfelt feelings. Let's just let it settle. Feel the spirit within you, within everyone here. Think about what you'd like to take away from this group gathering, about how you experience spiritual community, what you long for in spiritual community, and how you contribute to spiritual community. These are ongoing explorations, not cut and dried answers. Next year might be different in your answers than you are now. You might be different now from who you would have been 10 years ago. Good. Thank you for joining us for this Spirit Gathering teleconference. The recording will be available until next month's Spirit Gathering. The topic of next month's gathering is Gracious Receiving on Wednesday, November 21st. We invite you to come and to invite others who might enjoy the call. These calls are hosted by Tzaddi, a spiritual educational organization founded in California in 1964. Tzaddi welcomes, nurtures, and supports people in celebrating and more directly experiencing their relationship with the loving presence of the divine. Our programs are open to people of any race, color, or national or ethnic origin. Visit www.tzaddi.org to learn more about our work and click on payments if you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation. We will close now with thanks and a blessing. Thanks to Tzaddi founders Amy Keyes and Dorothy Blackmere, who started our metaphysical organization. Thanks to all of you who have taken part in our community tonight. And thanks to the Divine who supports us always, even when we are not aware of it. And I invite you now to silently and telepathically offer a blessing for yourself and for all of us in the circle and for the organization, Tzaddi. Good. Thank you. You can email me directly if you want to continue dialoguing about these things. And thank you for being a part of our circle tonight. Now, as we begin to prepare to leave the circle, I'd like you to imagine that we're around the campfire, that it's the end of the evening, that we're all going to shuffle off to our cabins or our bedrolls to have a beautiful, restful, nourishing night's sleep. And as we shift out of this council space to private time, we're releasing each other from the intensity of attention that being in circle together requires. And so I'd like you to think now as you check out what one word of blessing you'd like to say. I'll begin. I'll say gratitude. Thank you and good night.
I offer surrender and good night.
I offer connection. Good night.
I offer gratitude. Good night.
I offer peace. Good night.